इस्लामाबाद से आप देख रहे हैं जिरगा सलीम साफी के साथ।
बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम, अस्सलाम वालेकुम नाजरीन। मेरे आज के मुअज़्ज़ज़ मेहमान बाई प्रोफेशन तो डॉक्टर थे, लेकिन वो समाज के भी, सियासत के भी, आलमी सियासत के भी और हर्ब के मैदान के भी डॉक्टर साबित हुए हैं। आलमी शोहरत याफ्ता कमांडर अहमद शाह मसूद के दस्तरास्त की हैसियत से उन्होंने सोवियत यूनियन के ख़िलाफ़ अफ़गान जिहाद में भरपूर हिस्सा लिया और रात को मेरी उनसे बात हो रही थी तो 20-22 मरतबा वो मुख्तलिफ़ हमलों में मौत से बाल बाल बच गए। कई मौक़े पे ज़ख्मी भी हुए और ऐसे मौक़े पे कि वो मुजाहिदीन ज़ख्मियों की तीमारदारी बतौर डॉक्टर करते रहे। उसके बाद अफ़गानिस्तान के मुख्तलिफ़ ओहदों पे फ़ाइज़ रहे, वज़ीर ख़ारजा भी रहे। हामिद करज़ई साहब की काबीना में अफ़गानिस्तान में नए निज़ाम की तश्कील में और आलमी सतह पे अफ़गानिस्तान को मनवाने में डॉक्टर अब्दुल्ला ने बुनियादी किरदार अदा किया था वज़ीर ख़ारजा की हैसियत से। 2009 में भी उन्होंने फिर प्रेसिडेंशियल इलेक्शन लड़ा। उसके बाद डॉक्टर अशरफ गनी साहब के मुकाबले में 2014 में इलेक्शन लड़ा। इंतखाबात तनाज़े के शिकार हुए, लेकिन एक सच्चे अफ़गान की हैसियत से उस वक़्त उन्होंने अफ़गानिस्तान में अमन की खातिर क़ुरबानी दी और एक डील के नतीजे में फिर उस हुकूमत में चीफ़ एग्ज़ेक्टिव की हैसियत से ख़िदमत अंजाम देते रहे। अब के बार जब इंतखाबात हुए अफ़गानिस्तान में तो एक मरतबा फिर बदकिस्मती से इंतखाबात का मुतनाज़ा हो गए, उनके नताइज मुतनाज़ा हो गए और ये बड़ा ख़दशा था कि खुदा न खास्ता न सिर्फ तालिबान के साथ तनाज़ा हो, जंग हो, बल्कि ख़ुद अफ़गान पॉलिटिकल सिस्टम का हिस्सा रहने वाले लोग भी जंग की तरफ चले जाएं। लेकिन जनाब हामिद करज़ई साहब और दीगर अकाबिरीन की मशावरत से एक बार फिर डॉक्टर अब्दुल्ला साहब ने एक बड़ी क़ुरबानी दी और इस मरतबा वो ख़ुद हुकूमत का हिस्सा भी नहीं बने, लेकिन उस डील के नतीजे में जो मनसब उनको मिला है, मैं समझता हूँ कि वो अफ़गानिस्तान की सदारत या वज़ारत उज़्मा से भी कई गुना ज़्यादा अहम मनसब है। क्योंकि जो पीस प्रोसेस है और जो हाई काउंसिल फॉर नेशनल रिकन्सिलिएशन है, तो डॉक्टर अब्दुल्ला ने उसको चुना उसके सरबराह के तौर पर, जबकि डॉक्टर अशरफ गनी को सदर के तौर पर तस्लीम किया। यूँ इस वक्त अफ़गानिस्तान के अमन के लिहाज से अगर बुनियादी किरदार किसी शख्सियत का है तो वो डॉक्टर अब्दुल्ला है। डॉक्टर अब्दुल्ला साहब अपनी ज़ात में भी अफ़गानिस्तान की यूनिटी के अलामत है। कुछ हवालों से वो पख्तून भी है, वो ताजिक भी हैं, उनकी रिश्तेदारियाँ बलोचों में भी हो चुकी हैं और उज़्बेक हज़ारा कम्यूनिटी के साथ भी उनके करीबी रवाबित हैं। हमारी खुशकिस्मती है कि वो एक लंबे अरसे के बाद पाकिस्तान के दौरे पे तशरीफ़ लाए। फिर हमारी खुशकिस्मती ये है कि उन्होंने इंटरव्यू के लिए जियो टीवी का और हमारे जरगे का इंतखाब किया। डॉक्टर साहब बहुत शुक्रिया, डेर मनना पाकिस्तान ता खैरा ग्लास स्तड़ी मशे और अल्लाह देव की जस्तासुदा सफ़र द दुआनो मलकुनो द खैर बायस उगर्जी
सलामत हुसे साफ़ी साहब मोहतरम, डेर मनना।
डॉक्टर साहब, पहला सवाल मैं ये करना चाहूँगा कि आप ही जो हाई काउंसिल फॉर नेशनल रिकन्सिलिएशन है उसके सरबराह बने हैं और उसमें तमाम जमातों के नुमाइंदे भी आपके साथ हैं और मैंडेट बुनियादी तौर पर आपका बनता है रिकन्सिलिएशन और अमन अमल का, तो होना ये नहीं चाहिए था कि तालिबान के साथ निगोसिएशन की सरबराही आप करते, उसकी वजह एक और टीम मुज़ाकरात कर रही है?
The issue is that I'm leading the whole efforts towards reconciliation and peace. Within Afghanistan, we need consensus building, which is important. Amongst those which are under the banner of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan, they need to be unified. And they are unified in support for the peace process, but we need to work all along. And at the same time, we need consensus building in the region, which fortunately now we have a broad understanding in support of peace. in the region. Also, our international partners are involved. So I'm leading the whole effort for peace and reconciliation. And if time comes, if it is needed, that I negotiate with the Taliban leaders and they agree, I will do that. I was there for the inauguration of the negotiations for a day or two. Then I returned. I'm in constant contact with our team, negotiating team, and they are leading the negotiations in our part very well. And if it was needed, then I can do that.
अच्छा एक्सेलेंसी, लास्ट टाइम आपकी और डॉक्टर अशरफ गनी की जो डील हुई थी उसके गारंटर अमेरिका था। अब के बार बाहर से कोई गारंटर नहीं है, तो इस बात का ख़तरा नहीं है कि जो आपकी और डॉक्टर अशरफ गनी साहब की अरेंजमेंट हुई है तो किसी वक्त वो ख़राब हो जाए?
No, inshallah. There will be no need for guarantors. The guarantors are the needs of the people of Afghanistan, the requirement of our national interest to work together, especially at this stage, where our people are hopeful that we will achieve peace, stability, sustainable peace, dignified peace. The need for the unity is more than ever. And when I decided, when we decided to work together, it was based on the common understanding of our national interest at this stage and the expectations of the people. Those factors are becoming even more important, and we need to continue to work together.
एक्सेलेंसी, अभी तक जो इंट्रा अफगान डायलॉग हुए हैं कतर में, दोहा में, इतने दिन हो गए, अभी तक एजेंडे पे भी इत्तेफाक नहीं हो सका, तो आप किस तरह देखते हैं, कितने पुरुमीद है इंट्रा अफगान डायलॉग की कामयाबी के हवाले से?
First of all, the fact that after so many years of war, if you only take the period of fighting with the Taliban, it's almost nearly 3 decades now. And then we sit together around the table and we talk and we discuss. What is it that we are talking about? It's to find a solution for our country based on an understanding that through war there are no winners. Through peace, in inclusive, peaceful settlement, there are no losers. That in itself is historic. Personally, I would have preferred it to have moved in a more speedy manner, but I do understand that it will take time. It has taken time. It's important that we do not waste time. If it does take time, it's natural, but time is not wasted. The people of Afghanistan expectations are that the sooner they see the result, some outcome, for example, significant reduction in violence, or getting to an agreement on a ceasefire, or more stable situation, more secure situation, the better it will be for the people. And these are the expectations of the people of Afghanistan. And both sides, I hope, will understand the negotiating teams, that is what is expected from them.
But it seems that they are wasting time. तो अभी hurdles क्या हैं?
Yourself are well aware that these negotiations are complex negotiations. It starts with a lot of mistrust on both sides. It takes time to learn one another ways of communication. We know our language, we know it's the common language, but the way that both sides communicate. Our team is a diverse team, as you may be aware of. Taliban team are also a strong team, and they are responsible. Their audience is, of course, mainly their own constituencies, then the broader public. And these complications will require us only to support the negotiating team, to encourage them to be patient and more patient and continue, and not to break the talks and find ways to move forward. But then to bring the issues to the public will not help at this stage. There are issues. There are sometimes one side is more tough in his own line. It takes time, too many ways of getting back to that issue and trying to find solutions. This will be part of the negotiations.
एक्सेलेंसी, जो यूएस तालिबान डायलॉग हुए उसमें यूएस ने पाकिस्तान के रोल को अप्रिशिएट भी किया, रिकग्नाइज़ किया, प्रेसिडेंट ट्रंप से लेके ज़ल्मा खलीलज़ाद के लेवल पे। अब जो इंटर अफ़गान डायलॉग है उसमें आप पाकिस्तान के रोल को किस तरह देख रहे हैं? क्या पाकिस्तान उसी तरह फैसिलिटेशन कर रहा है जिसने यूएस तालिबान टॉक्स के दौरान किए थे?
Yes, as I also talked about it in the Center for Strategic Studies, Islamabad, that we are appreciative of the role that Pakistan has played in facilitating the Doha Agreement and later on in facilitating the negotiations. We had in-depth discussions with authorities in Pakistan since yesterday, since the day before yesterday, since my arrival, how we can best coordinate in support of the progress and early progress in the negotiations and also in other aspects of the situation. I was appreciative of the message by Prime Minister Imran Khan, which called for reduction in violence leading to ceasefire, which is very important. So I expressed my gratitude and I repeat it now.
तो माजी में अफ़गानिस्तान को ये शिकायत रही है कि पाकिस्तान न सिर्फ ये कि सलूशन में हेल्प नहीं कर रहा है बल्कि पाकिस्तान इज़ पार्ट ऑफ द प्रॉब्लम, ये इल्ज़ाम लगता रहा। तो नाउ आप लोग सेटिस्फाइड हैं कि पाकिस्तान सलूशन में और अमन लाने में सिंसियर है?
We need to continue to work together. I leave Pakistan today with positive impressions from what I have heard, but we need to continue to work together. And I have no doubt in my mind that peace in Afghanistan will mean peace in Pakistan, prosperity in the same way, peace and prosperity in Pakistan and the whole region. And that is only in our interest to have peace and stability in our country and have stronger bonds with the neighborhood on the basis of our common interest, and that's in everybody's interest.
ये जो डायलॉग हो रहा है उसकी बुनियाद रखी है यूएस और तालिबान के डायलॉग ने। यूएस फोर्सेस अफ़गानिस्तान में मौजूद है और अभी भी की रोल उनका होगा। तो अफ़गानिस्तान के जो और रीजनल पड़ोसी हैं, ईरान के साथ अमेरिका के ताल्लुकात ख़राब हैं, चीन आजकल अमेरिका को अपने लिए सबसे बड़ा चैलेंज समझता है और डोनाल्ड ट्रंप साहब मुंह खोलते ही चीन के ख़िलाफ़ बोलते हैं, रशिया भी, सेंट्रल एशियन स्टेट भी उतने उनके ताल्लुकात बेहतर नहीं हैं। तो जब इस प्रोसेस से रूस, चीन, ईरान जैसे ममालिक बाहर हैं तो इसकी कामयाबी के कितने इम्कानात हैं और इन ममालिक के जो रीजनल कंट्रीज़ हैं, पड़ोसी कंट्रीज़ हैं, उनके रोल को आप कैसे देख रहे हैं?
As a whole, all those countries that you yourself refer to, they are supportive of a peaceful settlement. They are not encouraging a continuation of the conflict in Afghanistan. But in between those countries and the United States, there are relations that we are also aware of that. But when I mentioned earlier that to a large extent there is an understanding in the region, also in the wider region, that peace and stability in Afghanistan is important for everybody. Sometimes there are different approaches, sometimes there are different factors which are involved, which has prevented some countries to buy into the process completely. But when it comes to peace, stability in Afghanistan, sustainable peace, those countries that you yourself mentioned, all of them, they see their interest in a peaceful Afghanistan.
एक्सेलेंसी, जिस तरह आपने फरमाया कि आप पूरे इस पीस प्रोसेस को आलमी सतह पे जो कैरेक्टर्स हैं, रीजनल सतह पे जो कैरेक्टर हैं और अफ़गानिस्तान के अंदर जो मुख्तलिफ कैरेक्टर्स हैं उसको कोऑर्डिनेट भी कर रहे हैं, उसको ओवरसी भी कर रहे हैं और उनको एक डायरेक्शन में ले जाने की कोशिश भी कर रहे हैं। तो आप क्या समझते हैं कि 3 पोटेंशियल चैलेंजेस इंट्रा अफगान डायलॉग के लिए क्या है?
In working in trying to bring broader understanding and strengthening that in the region, I'm not under any illusion to put everybody on the same page, knowing everybody's concerns, everybody's issues that they are that are more important. That's not feasible. But to assure everybody that Afghanistan want to be a safe place for its own citizens, in no country in the region and beyond feels threatened from Afghanistan. And then there will be opportunities for economic development, for investment, for business, for peoples to peoples relations, and all sorts of legitimate bonds and relations between the countries. So coming to your question, 3 main challenges. The main issue is that both sides, as in the Taliban, do we really believe that there is no solution through continuation of the war? That will be put into test during the negotiations. And I hope that we, both sides, we pass that test positively. That's one. Next to that is the type of arrangement that we will have. Security arrangement, political, administrative arrangement, how we move from this stage to the next, to the end state, where the destiny of the people will be decided by the people as a whole, at large, all the people without any exception. How both sides could get to an understanding on that, while having the liberty of maintaining our differences and fighting for our differences politically, not through violence. That's the next phase. And then, of course, the third one will be, of course, post-peace. It's to have an agreement is difficult. If you look at the peace processes around the world, to implement it, will prove to be even more difficult. So the test ahead of all of us as Afghans is enormous, is overwhelming. But the other choice, there is no other choice. The other way is the continuation of the agony of a nation, which has already continued for the past 42 years, too long. I was talking to our own journalists today during breakfast and talking about what Afghanistan has gone through in the past 42 years. It's still to remain a unified country while the conflict continues, unfortunately, with very diverse views in lots of positive developments and evolution which has taken place. A lot of challenges which remain. Still, there are millions of refugees still in Pakistan. There are millions in Afghanistan. These are our citizens, and we want them to return when the conditions are right, and we have to facilitate for their dignified voluntary return. Only take that one part. We have internally displaced people, hundreds of thousands of IDPs within Afghanistan, mainly because of the war, but sometimes also because of natural disasters like flooding or earthquake or drought. So poverty, illiteracy, all of these are the challenges that the post-peace Afghanistan will have to deal with. The task ahead of us is enormous, but we have to do it.
You have to do it. नाज़रीन, डॉक्टर अब्दुल्ला साहब के साथ मज़ीद भी कई अहम मौज़ूआत पे बात करनी है, लेकिन एक मुख्तसर से वक्फ़े के बाद। वेलकम बैक नाज़रीन। जरगे में हमारे साथ हैं जनाब डॉक्टर अब्दुल्ला साहब। किसी तारुफ के मोहताज नहीं हैं। डॉक्टर साहब, पाकिस्तान में एक बड़ा ख़तरा ये महसूस किया जा रहा है स्पॉयलर्स का, आप क्या समझते हैं कि अफ़गानिस्तान से बाहर किस किस्म के और कितने स्पॉयलर्स हो सकते हैं, और विद इन अफ़गानिस्तान किस तरह के लोग स्पॉयलर हो सकते हैं?
I would say that those who benefit from the continuation of the war and war economy, there might be groups that they benefit inside Afghanistan from it. The terrorist groups, which are posing threats to the countries of our region, they might think that when there is peace in Afghanistan, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and other terrorist groups, when there is peace in Afghanistan, then there will be no place for them there. That is a reality which we have to deal with them. We have a duty also as citizens to address those challenges and not let those to spoil the opportunity for the people of Afghanistan. I don't see that. I don't see countries, or at least I've not come to an understanding that in the neighborhood of Afghanistan, in the region, in broader region, while there are a lot of diverse relations between countries, lots of issues between different countries. You mentioned earlier the example of the Islamic Republic of Iran, the United States. There are many issues. There are many issues, many challenges unsolved. But when it comes to Afghanistan, I've been in contact with both the United States as lead partner of Afghanistan, the Islamic Republic of Iran as a neighboring country. I see no difference in terms of the end state, a peaceful, unified Afghanistan which does not harbor terrorist groups. So my sense is that we need to continue. If there are question marks, if there are issues, concerns, we need to address them amicably, candidly, with the aim of assuring everybody that only peace is in their interest.
डॉक्टर साहब, आपने जिक्र किया अफ़गानिस्तान में मुख्तलिफ TTP और ISIS जैसे ग्रुपों की मौजूदगी का, तो पाकिस्तान को हमेशा से ये शिकायत रही है कि जी अफ़गान सरज़मीन को TTP जैसी तंजीमें पाकिस्तान के ख़िलाफ़ इस्तेमाल कर रही हैं, और बाज़ औक़ात उसको अफ़गान गवर्नमेंट या NDS और रॉ की तरफ से सरपरस्ती का इल्ज़ाम भी लगता रहा। अभी जो ये TTA के साथ प्रोसेस आगे बढ़ रहा है, तो TTP ग्रुप हो गया, उनका दोबारा अलायंस हो गया, मुख्तलिफ दड़े मिल गए आपस में, और पाकिस्तान के अंदर फिर कार्रवाइयों का आगाज़ हो गया। तो अब अगर पाकिस्तान अफ़गानिस्तान की शिकायत को दूर कर रहा है और पीस प्रोसेस को फैसिलिटेट कर रहा है, तो पाकिस्तान की इस शिकायत का क्या किया जाएगा? TTP को वहाँ से रूट आउट करने के लिए क्या अफ़गान हुकूमत और आप लोग मदद करेंगे?
I would say that based on one principle, that first, Afghanistan, peaceful Afghanistan shouldn't be room for any terrorist group under any name. You call it TTP, Al-Ahrar, whatever, ISIS, IMU, Al-Qaeda. This will be a disastrous situation that we have a peace deal, but at the same time, these terrorist groups under different names, they continue to create insecurity for us or for the region. As a matter of principle, I cannot see that I can agree for a single second with the presence of any terrorist group under any name. It's not in our interest. I'm not going towards the allegation, not allegations. I will say that there have been certain challenges in our relations throughout. What is the way forward? To get stuck in the past, or to get together and work out something which is in everybody's interest. But as an Afghan citizen, but today in charge of the High Council for National Reconciliation, regardless of what has happened and the suffering that our people have gone through, I do believe that Afghanistan should be no place for any terrorist group against any country. That's very obvious. And if there are concerns today, the institutions should get together and see what are the evidences, what are there are concerns about certain security concerns, certainly on both sides. They need to get together and address it in a friendly manner on the basis of the same principle, that terrorist groups will not help any country, will not be in the legitimate interests of any country today, tomorrow, and also the recent past of our region shows that only this type of judgment over these groups are in our interest.
डॉक्टर साहब, आप सारी ज़िंदगी मैदान अमल में रहे, इन सब ग्रुप्स की इवोल्यूशन आपकी नज़रों के सामने हुई है। आप टीटीए और टीटीपी दोनों के रिलेशनशिप को किस तरह डिस्क्राइब करते हैं? और अब जबकि अफ़गान तालिबान वहाँ पे तक़वियत पा रहे हैं या सिस्टम का हिस्सा बन रहे हैं, तो आपका तज्ज़िया क्या है कि उससे टीटीपी मजबूत होगी या कमज़ोर होगी?
I would say that when there is peace in Afghanistan, all terrorist groups under any names, they will be weaker because they are using the insecurity because the broad engagement and military engagement in Afghanistan. Most of the fightings are taking place between Afghanistan, our security forces, and the Taliban. And in between this, where was ISIS a few years back? Now ISIS has a foothold in Afghanistan. How did Al-Qaeda took root? Because they were fighting within Afghanistan, and then Al-Qaeda took advantage of that and create disasters for us. That's the nature of all these terrorist groups, and I would say that in a peaceful Afghanistan, terrorist groups will not have a place.
ISIS कितना बड़ा ख़तरा है और अल-कायदा की प्रेजेंस अब कितनी है, और क्या अफ़गान तालिबान रियल टर्म में अल-कायदा से अपने आप को डिटैच कर लेंगे?
That needs to be proven. That's what, severing links with Al-Qaeda is part of the US-Taliban agreement, and one of the conditions for those agreements, one of the important conditions for that agreement. And sometimes these groups, they switch side, they are only after their own interest, they just change the banner from white to black or black to white, some of the groups inside Afghanistan, and some of these terrorist groups from which their aim is other countries, for example, Central Asian republics. Sometimes they associate themselves with Al-Qaeda, sometimes with Taliban, sometimes with ISIS. So it is a sort of fluid situation. And that also is another factor which shows the urgency of coming to a peaceful, inclusive, peaceful settlement, where these groups will not be able to take advantage of it. ISIS is a threat today, but in a peaceful Afghanistan, one can address it in much easier manner than today. They lost some territory in eastern Afghanistan. They still have, some of the tribes on both sides of the line, one or two, have given more recruits, or ISIS has been able to take more recruits from that particular tribe, and so on and so forth. These are the things that if we have security cooperations between countries strengthened, we can address it further.
Because TTP की presence भी है अभी अफगानिस्तान में? TTP,
yes, of course, we consider them as part of the terrorist groups, and some of their leaders lost their life in the fighting against our forces in the past, but they will be there because it's when the insecurity expands, and these groups take advantage of that.
नाज़रीन, एक मुख्तसर सी ब्रेक, वापस आते हैं तो जनाब डॉक्टर अब्दुल्ला साहब के साथ गुफ्तगू जारी रखेंगे। एक बार फिर खुशामदीद आपको जिरगे में। हमारे साथ हैं पाकिस्तान के दौरे पे आए हुए अफ़गान रहनुमा जनाब डॉक्टर अब्दुल्ला साहब। डॉक्टर साहब, एक थोड़ा सा कॉम्प्लिकेटेड सा सवाल,
If it is too complicated, then leave it for another interview.
No, it's not so
when
much
you come to Kabul, okay?
वो ये है कि अगर तालिबान के साथ मुफाहमत होती है तो उसके नतीजे में शायद कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन को भी रिवाइज़ करना पड़ जाए और उसके नतीजे में शायद कि अबूरी हुकूमत या निगरान हुकूमत भी बनाना पड़ जाए। तो उस सूरत में तो ज़ाहिरी बात है कि डॉक्टर अशरफ गनी साहब और उनकी टीम को जाना पड़ेगा। तो लोग एक तासुर ये भी है कि ख़ुद अशरफ गनी साहब और उनकी टीम के लोग भी इन मुज़ाकरात की कामयाबी नहीं चाहते। आप समझते हैं कि वो अमन की खातिर और पीस की खातिर फिर ये मनसब छोड़ने पे तैयार हो जाएंगे?
Look, this is the team, the negotiating team for the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan. Yes? The negotiating team is talking on behalf of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan, and President Ghani is the president of Afghanistan. Yes, during the elections, we have disputed elections, we have issues like past elections, recent elections, but he is the president of Afghanistan. He has said time and again that he is committed to peaceful settlement. We are in very early phases. In every stage, in every phase, we need to support our negotiating team in order to show flexibility and eventually agree with the Taliban on a peace package from A to Z. But the end state has to be unified, democratic Afghanistan with diverse views, yes, and inclusive of all, without like excluding one group, and that's in everybody's interest. Where are we today? At the very beginning of this. I'm not for creating doubts about leaders' intentions. Had President Ghani not taken that decision, or had he not agreed on prisoners' release, it wouldn't have happened, because he's the president of the country. The people want peace, he wants peace, but it wouldn't have happened without release of thousands of Taliban prisoners. It was an exchange, but in exchange for less than 1,000 of our forces, then 5,000 Taliban prisoners. So that was a big step. So we should give him credit for that, because yes, he called for Loya Jirga, and then the Jirga also unanimously supported the peace process. Without it, negotiations wouldn't have even have started. Everybody will have concerns about the future of this country. What's the end state? And the people of Afghanistan will only support politicians who put the interest of the country above their own interest. But today is not the time to talk about, to create doubts about somebody's intentions, because look at the past few months, 5,500 Taliban prisoners have been released, and this wouldn't have happened without a decision in the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan.
लेकिन डॉक्टर साहब, जिस तरीके से यूएस ने मुज़ाकरात किए अफ़गान गवर्नमेंट को बाईपास करके डायरेक्ट तालिबान के साथ, और जो रियायतें उनको दी, उससे लगता नहीं है कि तालिबान का मोराल बहुत बूस्ट हुआ है और अफ़गान गवर्नमेंट की पोजीशन बड़ी कंप्रोमाइज़ हो गई है? तो ये ख़तरा आप महसूस नहीं करते कि अगर ये नेगोशिएशन ज़्यादा ड्रैग होते हैं तो ये ख़तरा नहीं है कि तालिबान बज़ोर बंदूक दोबारा काबुल पे काबिज़ हो जाएं?
बज़ोर बंदूक or by force coming back, we all have tried it in the past 42 years. We all have tried it. And it had happened to be in Kabul by force. But was it sustainable? And that's why that my hopes are on the fact that we have learned from the history and not repeat miscalculations of the past. And at one stage, Taliban were in control of majority of the country, and they believed that it will be only a matter of time before they control the whole country. Today, anybody making that miscalculation, that we take advantage of today and tomorrow's situations, and then we will be in the better position to come back by force, this will not happen. But unfortunately, what will happen will be the continuation of agony of a nation, the continuation of the suffering of a people. But this will not yield the results that somebody might might think. So
Pakistan-
if that's the analysis, if that's like analytical, theoretical question, that will be another missed opportunity.
पाकिस्तान में हमारे प्राइम मिनिस्टर का नारा था तब्दीली आ गई है, तो तालिबान के रवैये में और उनके अप्रोच में कोई तब्दीली आ गई है या कि नहीं, वो वही 90 के तालिबान लगते हैं?
I hope it's not 90s. It's not 2001. It's 2020, and it's we are in the 21st century, and at this stage, and a lot has changed in Afghanistan, and a lot has changed for positive in Afghanistan. One thing which has not changed, the continuation of the conflict, where we lose lives. We miss opportunities. The people continue to suffer, and the people which expect to have an important role in the situation in Afghanistan, they cannot achieve those goals by the continuation of the suffering of our people.
डोनाल्ड ट्रंप साहब को और ज़ल्मे खलीलज़ाद साहब को लगता है कि बहुत जल्दी है। इस बात का ख़तरा कितना है कि अफ़गानिस्तान में इंट्रा अफ़गान नेगोशिएशन की कामयाबी से पहले वो विड्रॉल कर ले और अफ़गानिस्तान को अपने रहमो करम पे छोड़ दे, माजी की तरह हालात के रहमो करम पे?
It's not more urgent than for our people. Nobody has more urgency than our people, because it's our people which go through these suffering in Afghan, through these sufferings. If the United States also is looking at it with urgency, which is the case, it's an opportunity for us, rather than the way that you yourself referred to earlier, that there might be some thinking, and that the U.S. will withdraw sooner rather than later. The United States will decide based on its own interest, based on its own calculus. It will not wait for us to address all our concerns through negotiations and then say that now we have come to the right agreement or right understanding, and now it's time for us to leave. They do it based on their own interest, and we as Afghans need to be cognizant of that fact.
इससे अपोजिट क्वेश्चन, डेमोक्रेट क्रिटिक रहे डोनाल्ड ट्रंप के इस डील के, जो जॉन बोल्टन की अभी बुक आई है उसमें उन्होंने ये लिखा है कि अमेरिकन इस्टेब्लिशमेंट, इवन स्टेट डिपार्टमेंट भी खुश नहीं था जिस तरीके से डोनाल्ड ट्रंप तालिबान के साथ डील कर रहे थे। तो अगर डोनाल्ड ट्रंप इलेक्शन हार गए और जो बाइडेन आ गए, तो इस बात का ख़तरा नहीं है कि अमेरिकन तालिबान के साथ इस सारे प्रोसेस को रिवर्स कर लें?
The election politics in the United States, now it has started, and as we are speaking today is like start of the peak of the politics there. In the first debate has taken place between President Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden. On the issue of Afghanistan, both sides are supportive of peaceful settlement. Approaches might be different, and going back to the old days to bring tens of thousands or more troops will not be possible. Whether this administration continue as a result of the elections or comes another administration, but still I will emphasize my own earlier point that the urgency is mainly for us, for Afghanistan, for Pakistan, for this region, because we are the ones who will be impacted most if we don't get a peaceful settlement.
पाकिस्तान और अफ़गानिस्तान के अवाम हमेशा दोनों एक दूसरे के साथ तो जुड़े रहे, उनके दिल एक दूसरे के साथ धड़कते रहें, लेकिन हुकूमती सतह पे मामलात ख़राब रहें, क्योंकि दोनों ममालिक की क़यादत स्ट्रेटिजिक बुनियादों पे कोई ताउन नहीं कर सके। तो आपको क्या वेन्यूज़ नज़र आते हैं दोनों ममालिक के स्ट्रेटिजिक कोऑपरेशन के?
I would say that things starts from small steps. Still, in spite of the complaints which might exist on both sides, I would say that there has been progress as well in interactions and status of relations between both countries. those even smaller steps will have big impacts. As neighbors, we have no other choice but to work together. And earlier, we address each other's legitimate concerns and work on the basis of common interest, mutual respect. The better it would be. There have been steps taken in the past. My own visit, while the focus was on the peace process and bilateral issues also, I raised some of the issues which were issues of demands of our own people. Like yesterday when this visa policy was approved by the cabinet, that was a good news for the people of Afghanistan. That's part of, for example, issues of trade and transit which exist, peoples to peoples relations. And I had met Honorable Asad Qaiser, the Speaker of the National Assembly, the Chairman of the Senate, apart from the government authorities, which I have met with most of them, and also the ministers which were present there. And the way that the National Assembly in Pakistan, the priority that it has given to the relations or aspects of relations with Afghanistan, and then the government following it, it's important. This is this gives you a different sense. We need to build upon it and work on it, and for better future, betterment of life for our people and people in the region.
ये सादिक खान को जब से स्पेशल एनवाय बनाया गया है, तो आप क्या समझते हैं कि उनकी इंडक्शन के पॉजिटिव रिजल्ट्स आए हैं या कि
I had welcomed it right at the beginning when I learned about it, because I knew him earlier as ambassador to Afghanistan and later on as advisor in the national security in Pakistan. He has a good knowledge of the situation in Afghanistan. He has boosted the efforts which was already underway in support of bilateral cooperation, and I had welcomed it earlier, and also he has been very busy also during our visit here, because it's important that
रीजनल और इकोनॉमिक कोऑपरेशन की एक बड़ी बुनियाद सीपेक बन सकता है, या बेल्ट एंड रोड इनिशिएटिव जो है। अफ़गानिस्तान सीपेक प्रोजेक्ट को किस तरह देखता है, और क्या अफ़गानिस्तान हिस्सा बनना चाहेगा सीपेक का?
I would say that Belt and Road Initiative, which is connectivity initiative, and apart from on top of other connectivity projects which exist in the region, it's important. It's important, but we will we will judge it when we see the benefits of it ourselves, how it impacts our situation. But anything which connects the region in a better way and facilitate trade, transit, and exchanges in further facilitates that, we have welcomed it.
डॉक्टर साहब, एक तो बहुत शुक्रिया, आपका बहुत वक्त लिया मैंने, और दूसरा आप बहुत अरसे बाद पाकिस्तान आए हैं, और बदकिस्मती ये है कि मैंने बतौर जर्नलिस्ट ये देखा है कि दोनों तरफ अमूमन मिसकंसेप्शन पाए जाते हैं, और आपकी शख्सियत भी उन लोगों में से हैं कि जिसको बदकिस्मती से पाकिस्तान में एक लंबे अरसे तक मिसअंडरस्टूड किया जाता रहा। तो मैं चाहूँगा कि आखिर में आप पाकिस्तानी अवाम के नाम जो पैगाम, और अगर मुमकिन हो उर्दू में ही दे सके, ताकि बराह रास्त आप पाकिस्तानी अवाम से मुखातिब।
अफ़गानिस्तान में अमन सिर्फ पाकिस्तान के नहीं बल्कि पूरे खित्ते के लिए खुशहाली और अमन का बाइस बनेगा इंशाअल्लाह। मैं अपनी गुफ्तगू का अख्तिताम पाकिस्तान कौमी शायर अल्लामा मोहम्मद इकबाल के अफ़गानिस्तान के बारे में इन तारीख़ी अशआर के साथ करना चाहूँगा कि आसिया یک پیکر آب و گل است، ملت افغان در آن پیکر دل است. از فساد آسیا در گشاد آسیا.
बहुत शुक्रिया डॉक्टर साहब। और हमारी दुआ है कि एशिया का ये दिल अफ़गानिस्तान अमन का, खुशहाली का, तरक्की का, सुकून का गहवारा बन जाए और वहाँ से अमन के और खुशहाली है और तरक्की के शोले पूरे ख़ित्ते का अहाता कर लें। और हमारी ये भी दुआ है कि आपका सफ़र बखैर हो और अल्लाह करे कि आपका ये दौरा पाकिस्तान दोनों मुल्कों के दरमियान हकीकी बरादराना ताल्लुक़ात और अमन के लिए एक ठोस बुनियाद साबित हो। अनफॉर्चुनेटली बिकॉज ऑफ कोरोना वी कैन नॉट शेक हैंड, बट हमारे दिल आपके साथ हैं, हमारी नेक तमन्नाएं। थैंक यू डॉक्टर साहब।
मानना, शुक्रिया।
नाज़रीन, इसके साथ ही आज के इस खुसूसी जरगे से इजाज़त दीजिए। अल्लाह हाफ़िज़।